End of this ceremony, a 2-hour ceremony for the life of Officer Diego Moreno. We're going to hear from the police chief. We're going to hear from the mayor of Kent, Dana Ralph. Officer Moreno's mother will speak, former friend, and Diego's wife, Shelley, will also speak today.
We do want to bring in Sergeant Kevin Hastings. He's with the Behind the Badge Foundation. He's also with Seattle Police Department. As we look at some pictures you were just looking at from some of our crews who have been out in Kent earlier today, we appreciate you being here. You've been helping us put some context to some of the images that we've been seeing today from this morning. Talk us through this service that we're going to be all witnessing and watching together.
Well, this afternoon we're going to watch the opening sequence, or part of the honors ceremony when we come in. There will be the cordon of honor with the family coming in. The urn will come down. They'll bring some of the special items that they have on display from Diego will be brought in, put up on the stage. Then we'll have, the bagpipers. Mm-hmm. And then right about the time the opening honors end, then we'll bring in the memorial. So the parts that the family put together, the photos, the videos, the different speakers, and then we'll have the closing section of the honors that will involve the ringing of the bell ceremony, the retiring of the colors, the folding and the presentations of the flags.
You told us before we went on the air just now that behind the badge you are often out of sight, out of mind, behind the badge, but we really come to recognize the value of your organization, a foundation, a nonprofit, because the support of this family is so important, beginning the moment that the officer's life is lost, right?
It is. I mean, our foundation has several people on our committees that are actually survivors, and so they've walked in those shoes. They know what the families are going to go through, and really that's kind of an invaluable part of what we do. We also started out of a group of officers that largely went to honor guard members or different roles, and would help throughout the state going back 20 plus years putting together memorials. And so it sort of morphed into this formalized team where we have integrated survivors and honor guard personnel, security people, so that we can help agencies with as little or as much help as they really need to be able to put on the event, as well as also bringing in financial resources, because you can't really use public money to put on a memorial like this. So that's all paid through private donation for the large part.
Wow. You were also very clear that it's not just your foundation putting all this on.
No, we really strive to be a partner with the agency in putting together an incident management team and working with them embedded closely to help basically shoulder or put a lot of the lift behind what it is they want to do. But really the fundamental focus is making sure that the honors are paid to Diego, and that the family's wishes on how that memorial is supposed to be and look and come out to the public, that is actually respected, and that we strive to get that done on their behalf.
As we're looking at these images, this really is our opportunity as the public to say thank you for his service. We were looking at those touching pictures of Officer Moreno with children. He was dedicated to kids in the community. There were stories about him pulling money out of his own pocket during a Christmas time gift buying event for children. Sounds like he was just an amazing officer with a huge heart.
Mm-hmm. This was actually a Shop with a Cop program, which, we talk about a lot during the holiday season. A lot of departments do have a similar event, but this was Kent Mayor Dana Ralph who described the story of Officer Diego Moreno working his graveyard shift, showing up at Target the next morning on his own time. So he was paired with another child, went shopping with this child. The child fills up his cart. They get to the checkout line, and the child didn't have enough money on the gift card to afford everything in his cart. So Officer Moreno took out his own credit card and paid for the rest of what was in the cart. And it shows just a little story about officers sort of going above and beyond the call of duty, and he was that kind of officer.
Sergeant Hastings, I wanted to just talk a little bit about this line of duty death. Officer Moreno was putting out spike strips to try to stop someone who was fleeing from police a week ago on Sunday. And apparently the state law says if you have committed a felony and in the process someone else dies, or you're fleeing from a felony and someone dies, whether it's a police officer or not, then you can be charged with felony murder. In this case, a 16-year-old who shouldn't have been driving, who was running from police, who started this whole pursuit, was at the cause of this, now faces a murder charge. So this line of duty death, had that not happened, Officer Moreno would be alive today.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
The suspect's actions started the entire chain of events that led to the death of Officer Moreno.
Yeah, so, you know, and I think that's an important thing that we all need to remember, that a careless action, a careless thought, a reckless night that leads to the death of another person could send you to prison for murder if people aren't aware of that. And it's so tragic how this whole thing unfolded. And he was just out there doing his job. The officer who hit him, an 18-year veteran of the Kent Police Department, was just doing his job.
Yeah, when both those officers went to work that night, last thing on their mind was how it was going to end.
Yeah.
That was just not part of the plan.
Okay, we're hearing that the master of ceremonies, this is Chaplain Pat Ellis, is walking into ShoWare Center right now. I'm wondering if we can pull up the pictures right now and listen in if he's speaking at this moment. We're still waiting. You see that Wazoo logo there?
I want to say thank
here he
you
is
for coming
speaking.
today to help us honor the life of Kent Police Officer Diego Moreno. In today's service, there's going to be a time of memories, a time of storytelling, all the great things about Diego's life. There's going to be a time where we're going to honor his service as a police officer, and to the Kent Police Department and to the citizens, not only of the Kent community, but to so many other agencies and lives that Diego had his fingerprints on. So a couple of brief instructions for protocol, because we truly believe that we are in this together as family. Honoring Diego's life, his family, his Kent Police Department family, the other law enforcement and fire service agencies, his family, and community members. We're here together. And so today there's going to be times where we're going to ask you to stand. You'll hear the honor guard give command for all uniformed personnel to present arms. If you're in uniform today, we would like you to render a 5-second up salute. Hold it until you hear the words to order arms. If you hear the command for honor guard present arms, only the honor guard at that time will be saluting. For those of you who are here today that are not in uniform, we want you to join us in rendering these honors so that we together can honor Officer Moreno. And so when you hear the honor guard commander say, uniform personnel present arms, we would like you to place your hand over your heart like you're doing a flag salute. And then when you hear the command to order arms, you can put your hand down. And so again, thank you for joining us today as we honor the life of Diego Moreno. I would like for you to please rise as we begin to bring the Moreno family in. Ceremonial Commander, post.
bell. Ring it and whoop!
Okay, we just want to dip in right now because Sergeant Kevin Hastings is with us with the Behind the Badge Foundation. You can explain what we're watching right now.
Yeah, right now, the family, the urn with Diego Moreno is there. They're bringing in his 8-point hat, the American flag that will be unfolded and refolded, which is traditionally when you have an urn for later in the presentation. And then, as you can see right there, the family is coming in right behind his personal effects and the urn.
And honor guards are lining.
So the honor guards are lining the center aisle. They're probably lining both aisles of the arena. They're at a full attention. It's referred to as the cordon of honor, and it's reserved really for the highest honors or for a line of duty death.
I'm being told that you saw earlier an officer being wheeled down the aisle, and we're told that that was one of the officers who was injured in the incident that Officer Diego Moreno was involved in, which ultimately took his life. He was being wheeled down the aisle with the family.
Officer Mark Williams, an 18-year veteran of the department, badly hurt in that crash, a serious leg injury, but will be there seated with the family on this very important day. Kent Police Department, a very tight-knit group, 196 employees. Sergeant Hastings, that's a small police department. Police departments, even big ones, are tight, aren't they?
Yes, certainly. I mean, even in a department the size of Seattle's, where I am, you know, I may not know everybody, but we're all part of the same family. But in a day like today, the agency and the jurisdictions really don't matter. Neither does the border, quite frankly. If you'll see the large contingent of officers from Vancouver and from the RCMP are down here, we're all part of one family in this type of an incident.
So what happens from here now that the family has come in and is seated? What happens now?
So they're going to continue to go on part of the opening of the Honor Guard promotion. So you're going to see the colors be posted. They're going to sing the anthems. Post the colors actually after the anthems are sung, and it'll be both Canadian and U.S. anthems out of respect for the Canadians that are down here as well.
It's truly been a tragic and a
We'll
very
do
difficult
both.
time for us, for all of us. Not just the Moreno family, not just the members of the Kent Police Department and the other law enforcement agencies and fire service agencies in the area. It has been a difficult and a tragic time for our citizens of this community as well. And for those of you that are not members of the emergency services agencies, I specifically want to acknowledge and thank you for coming and being with us here today. And on behalf of every person in uniform, I want to say thank you for the immense support and love that you have shared with us over this past week. And I want to welcome you. I want to welcome all of you, all our brothers and our sisters in emergency services who have come today. Whether you're part of the Honor Guard or just here on your own, I want you to know that we embrace you and we thank you for coming. Today is about honoring Kent Police Officer Diego Moreno and his family. And it's our desire that when you leave here today, you will know more about Diego than when you walked in. And the first thing you need to know is that Diego lived for his family, which means that every aspect of this service is centered around that concept, family. The Moreno family, the Kent Police Department family, the emergency services family, and the citizens of Kent. We are here together as a community, a group of people brought together in common unity. And so I'm going to offer an invocation today, and then the colors are going to be posted. This invocation as a blessing, and as I speak so, I'm going to do that in the tradition of my faith. And I want you to join your faith with mine, and together as family, let's bless this moment in time. Pray with me. Father, we ask that this ceremony be blessed, and that the hand of God will put his hand will be on us in peace. On the Moreno family, the members of the Kent Police Department, and the citizens of Kent. We pause a moment to remember the 2 officers who have been killed in the line of duty just this week from Arizona and Milwaukee, and the officers who were also injured in those incidences. We know that Diego is not alone, that he is in the company of other police officers who have also given their lives in duty and service to their communities. So we dedicate this moment in our lives to you and ask for your blessing upon our ceremony today. Amen. Please remain standing. Ceremonial Commander, advance the colors.
Color Guard Commander, advance the color.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The honor guard is dismissed. You may be seated. Thank you.
You're watching live coverage of the memorial service for Kent Police Officer Diego Moreno. With us on set is Sergeant Kevin Hastings with the Seattle Police Department, and also with Behind the Badge Foundation, a nonprofit that supports and organizes memorial services for fallen police officers. Sergeant Hastings, tell us what we're going to see. We've got the pipes coming in now. Explain what's going to happen in the next little bit here.
So the pipes are going to come in. They're going to play a tune "Go Home." You'll see them go up to the front. They'll either break left or right. They'll continue to play off stage, and then you'll see a contingent of officers come in with a battle streamer. That's basically a banner or a ribbon with Diego's name on it, his end of watch date, and that will be added to the agency flag, and it'll stay on that flag as a memorial for that agency, I guess, forever. So
Let's listen into the bagpipes right now.
Good afternoon. I am Rafael Padilla, Chief of Police for the City of Kent Police Department, and it is my highest honor to join with you today in the celebration of Officer Diego Moreno's life. This incredible gathering of law enforcement agencies, emergency first responders, dignitaries, and the community is a powerful statement about the impact we all feel when we lose one of our heroes. Over the past few days, the outpouring of love and support has been immeasurable. And on behalf of the Moreno family and the Kent Police Department, we want to offer our deepest gratitude. Thank you. Diego is survived by his wife, Shelley, his children, daughter Peyton, and son Adrian, his mother Lizzie, brother David, and sisters Alejandra and Camila, and several extended family. We are here to honor Diego's memory and pay our respects to his family in hopes of easing their pain and providing some comfort, if only momentarily. As promised at the vigil last Wednesday, we are going to tell a fantastic story of Diego's life. I will share about his career as an officer. Mayor Ralph will speak about her personal interactions with him. Lizzie Moreno will tell us about his childhood. Matt Mullinex will share about what it was like to be his friend and coworker. And Shelley Moreno will tell us about the wonderful father and husband he was. Poet and author Maya Angelou said, "I have learned that people will forget what you said, that people will forget what you did, but that people will never forget how you made them feel." Whether Diego intentionally applied this philosophy or was just something that was a part of his innate character, Diego's service to his community is replete with examples of how he performed with an awareness that it mattered how he made people feel. He served with an unyielding drive to help people and make everyone he encountered feel better. The mission of the Kent Police Department is to aggressively fight crime while serving with compassion. And while Diego was incredibly skilled in crime fighting, his true gift was relating to people. Serving with compassion simply came natural for him, and it is evident in the assignments he chose during his career. Diego had the competency to do just about anything in law enforcement, from homicide detective to SWAT operator. But when I checked his service record, I confirmed that he had something that I already knew in my heart, which that he purposely chose assignments that put him in position to care for and help people far above the traditional role of bringing bad guys to justice. He became a Kent police officer on April 16, 2010. Serving primarily in the patrol division, his assignments included being a peer support team member, trained to assist fellow officers in working through the chronic stresses and pressures that come with being a cop, and particularly following critical incidents. He was a hostage negotiator tasked with initiating communications with people in crisis or with violent criminals in an effort to establish trust and bring a peaceful resolution to potentially deadly situations. He was a field training officer responsible for mentoring, coaching, developing our new officers both in the technical parts of the job, but especially in the interpersonal skills necessary to forge meaningful relationships with the community. And he was also a recruiting officer, working to inspire KPD's future best and brightest. He was chosen because he was the best of us. Diego packed a ton of accomplishment in his 8 years, and quite honestly, he did more in 8 years than most of us do in 20. During his career, he earned 3 life-saving medals, the first for saving an 8-year-old boy who had drowned in a pool in July of 2011. The second for rescuing an elderly female from a burning building in July of 2016, and most recent for delivering naloxone to a female who overdosed in April of 2017. He was also awarded the Chief's Award of Exceptional Duty for going above and beyond when in June of 2015, he severely injured his knee while taking a felony suspect who was resisting arrest into custody. The suspect was able to momentarily break free from Diego's control, attempting to flee before 2 additional Kent officers arrived. The suspect violently fought the other officers, and they struggled to gain control. Injured, unable to walk, and in great pain, Diego crawled over to rejoin the fight. And eventually, the 3 officers were able to get the suspect into custody. Diego risked further injury because he knew that his partners needed him, and there was no way he was going to let them down. And this morning, Diego was posthumously presented the department's award of duty and sacrifice, which is bestowed upon officers who, through the performance of their duties, make the ultimate sacrifice. Officer Moreno gave of his time in an exceptional way, routinely volunteering to help those who were less fortunate. You have all already probably heard about his work with the Shop a Cop program and how he impacted young lives. But he also gave his personal time in schools, particularly with the Latino and Hispanic families, bridging the gap between our department and difficult-to-reach segments of our community. He volunteered to wait on tables during Tippecop fundraisers to raise money for Special Olympics, and he handed out donuts to the students at Ford Middle School, further deepening the erroneous stereotype that cops love donuts. The American dream is an ideal that every person should have an equal opportunity to achieve success and prosperity through hard work, determination, and initiative. Officer Diego was the embodiment of the American dream, and people across this great nation should be inspired by his life story. Immigrating here from Venezuela when he was in high school, he earned his U.S. citizenship. Diego was a proud American who loved his country, and although he always had a love and appreciation for Venezuela, his true fidelity was with our great country. With determination, hard work, and strong influence from his mother, he pursued his education, earning an associate's degree from Columbia Basin College and a Bachelor's of Arts and Sciences degree in Digital Technology and Culture with a minor in Criminal Justice from Washington State University. And as a Husky fan, it pains me for what I'm about to say. But I know that if Diego was here right now, he would have already yelled this, so I'll go ahead and say it for him. Go Cougs! Following college, he pursued a career in law enforcement, committing his life to serving the community. During this time, on a personal front, he made the best decision of his life, and probably his biggest overachievement. He married Shelley, the woman of his dreams, and they began their family together. As he did with all things, Diego Moreno accomplished so much in such a short time. I found the following quote by Dr. Steve Maraboli on how to live, and I think it sums up how Diego lived his life. It reads, "Live your truth, express your love, share your enthusiasm, take action towards your dreams, dance to your music, embrace your blessings, and make today worth remembering." Diego certainly lived a life worth remembering. To Shelley and Lizzie, know that you are and will always be a member of the KPD family. Our lives are intertwined forever, and I pledge to you that we will stand with you and the kids for all the years to come. Let there be no question, Officer Diego Moreno served his community with honor, courage, professionalism, and a true love for his people. Our KPD family will miss him dearly. We will never forget. Godspeed, Diego. I would like to now call upon Mayor Dana Ralph.
Good afternoon. On that Sunday morning, the sun had not come up yet when my doorbell rang. When we opened the door, the words that will forever ring in my ears and make my stomach stink: we've lost an officer. We're never prepared for the loss of a son, a brother, a husband, a father, a police officer, or a hero. While we were all celebrating our birthdays, holidays, enjoying our nights and weekends, Officer Diego Moreno patrolled the streets to keep our community safe. Today, he patrols the streets of heaven with the same infectious smile he had while working the streets of Kent. The job he signed up for was not an easy one. It was full of long hours, life and death decisions, and stressful situations. But Officer Moreno wore his badge with grace and with honor. He did the job he loved every day until that job took him from us. A life ended too early, an amazing career cut short, and a family man taken from the family who loved and adored him. Officer Moreno was more than a public servant. He was more than a police officer. He was our hero. It has been said, it is not how these officers died that makes them heroes, it's how they lived. That is true now more than ever. My heart continues to break for his family. I want them to know the level of love and support that they get from this community will never fade. He will always be a part of the Kent family, and we ask to always be a part of yours. I ask our community to never forget that the officers are not the only ones that make sacrifice, so do their families. We should honor them the same way we honor our first responders. The last time I saw Diego was about 12 hours before he died. Chief Padilla hosted a police department appreciation barbecue at our house. The chief wanted a gathering to thank our officers and a way to show respect and appreciation for their families and the police family. It was a safe space away from the daily stress of their jobs and a place just to enjoy themselves and each other. I watched as Diego ran around the yard playing with his kids, loving on his wife throughout the afternoon and spreading that infectious smile to the officers and family members in every interaction. The last time Diego kissed Shelley was in my yard. She had kissed him goodbye 1,000 times, but had no idea this would be the last one. I will hold that memory forever because it reminds me of so many things. It reminds me that our first responders sacrifice an incredible amount to serve our community. It reminds me that their families make the same sacrifice, and sometimes a bigger one. They give up their loved ones, knowing they will go into harm's way to keep our community safe. It reminds me, as an elected leader, I have an obligation to do everything I can to support our first responders and our families. That is my promise to you. And it reminds me how precious life is. We don't know when or how it will end. That last reminder hits me the hardest because Officer Moreno lived every day with purpose, resilience, and conviction. I've shared this story 100 times, and I will share it 1,000 more. Officer Moreno participated in our Shop with the Cop program every year for the 5 years since we've started it. This last year was really special. I watched Officer Moreno show up at Target at 6 a.m. After he'd worked all night, he'd gone home and picked up his daughter, brought her with him to Target, because he wanted to show her the importance of giving back to the community and helping out where he could. He and his daughter partnered up with a little boy for Christmas shopping. Officer Moreno was not shy. He was racing up and down the aisles with all of the kids, trying to find toys and video games. When they got to the front of the line, the little boy he was shopping with had run out of money on his gift card. I could tell there was a look of defeat on his face, and I began to make my way toward them. But before I could get there, Officer Moreno pulled out his own wallet to make sure that that little boy felt loved, felt compassion, and got the Christmas he deserved. That is who Officer Moreno was as a person. He had never met that child before, but he knew that child was from Kent and was in need, and that's all he needed to know to spring into action. Think of the amazing world we could live in if we all lived a little bit more like Officer Moreno with that kind of purpose. I want to share a letter from a little boy named Kareem, a local elementary student, that was mailed to the police department this week. It says, "Dear family of Officer Moreno, I was a kid that went to shop with a cop. Meeting Officer Moreno really made me appreciate all of the officers, and in my eyes, he was the best officer I ever met. He made me feel respected and also uplifted me. He told me to strive for higher goals and to be anything I wanted to be. I'll pray for your family and Officer Moreno. I hope this letter cheers you up." To the members of the law enforcement community and their families here today, just know how much you are loved and appreciated, not just in bad times, but in good. To the rest of us here, I ask that you hug our officers a little bit tighter and a little bit longer and support them year-round, not just in times of need. We all have a tremendous hole in our hearts. The hole will eventually heal, but the scars will be there forever, and we will never forget why. It is said, a hero is no braver than an ordinary man, but he is brave 5 minutes longer. Thank you, Officer Moreno, for serving our city, facing danger head-on, and being brave for the people of Kent. Your family will forever be our family. You will forever.
Mayor Ralph, Chief Padilla, thank you for your words, your insights, and your stories, how you connected with Diego and his life. Like I said, we want you to walk away today knowing more about him than when you came in. He deserves that. Before Chief Padilla spoke, you saw the placement of a streamer onto a flag of the Kent Police Department that's here on the stage. Flags have always been an important part of our communities, our cultures. It's how a country, it's how organizations represent themselves. Flag is a symbol that unites us as a group. And as a sign of respect and honor, we have placed a battle streamer on this flag that represents who we are as the Kent Police Department. That battle streamer bears the names of fallen officers. We have 3 now on our flag. Deputy Marshal Harry Miller, his end of watch was April 10, 1908. Detective Derek Foth, his end of watch was April 7th, 2017. And now Officer Diego Moreno, end of watch, July 22nd, 2018. The battle streamer was hung by his crew, the crew that Diego was assigned to and that worked with. And it is our way of showing that we will never forget our fallen officers. And as we heard from Chief Padilla, Diego was a decorated officer. We often refer to our police officers as heroes, and in all intents and purposes, they really are. But Diego, when you look at his life, you see he truly was a hero in every sense of the word. Just before the service started today in the family room, Officer Moreno was posthumously awarded his 3rd life-saving award. And just this past April, Kent Police and Puget Sound Fire were dispatched to a drowning at a local apartment complex. Officer Moreno was the first to arrive and found the 2-year-old little girl that had just been pulled out of the pond. She was not responsive, she was not breathing, and she had no heartbeat. Officer Moreno started CPR and continued until fire and medics arrived. I want to read a letter that the family wrote just this week. This letter is dated July 24th to the family of Officer Moreno. No words can express how truly sorry we are for your loss. My name is Darcy. I didn't meet Officer Moreno under good circumstances. My family and I will forever be truly grateful to have met Officer Moreno and the vital role he played in my daughter's life. On April 8, 2018, my daughter Chum Chum's 2nd birthday, and in a blink of an eye, I was running to see my daughter being pulled out of a pond. After giving my daughter CPR, Officer Moreno was the first officer to respond to Chum Chum's aid. He gave my daughter CPR until the medic team came and continued to try and revive her. Officer Moreno stood outside the medic vehicle until she was transported to Seattle Children's Hospital. Thank you, Officer Moreno, because almost 4 months later, my daughter is now home and on her journey of recovery. Officer Moreno, your attention to detail, dedication, and commitment will never be forgotten. I remember this letter was written on the 24th. On Thursday, July 26, 2018, my daughter will be meeting for the first time after her accident all but one of the brave men and women that saved her life. Chum Chum will never forget you, Officer Moreno. In closing, Dominic, Joyce, Duenes Reyes, and family, thank you to the entire Kent Police Department and Fire Department, Medic 1, and Officer Moreno especially, and will forever each and every one keep in our thoughts and our prayers. See, in every sense of the word, Officer Moreno gave himself to his community, the people around him. He wasn't just a great police officer. He was a great human being. He was the first to volunteer to stay to cover a shift. He was the first to volunteer to attend a community function or an event. Everything about him was about others, even the things you wouldn't have thought about. You're going to see here in just a few minutes pictures in your program of a man with a big smile, always sticking his tongue out and wild hair. That was Diego, right? And then Diego would show up with his head shaved. That was just Diego. Well, here's what was going on. He'd grow his hair out up to 8 inches, cut it off, and donate it to organizations like Locks of Love. That was Diego. The night that Diego died, he was in the process of growing out his hair. And so we measured it at the funeral home. Exactly 8 inches. Diego got to make one more donation. So that's Diego. And if there's anything that he loved in this world, it truly was his family, his wife, Shelley, his kids, Peyton and Adrian, and they loved him. There's sayings on the stage here up here that you might look and go, what? It's because they wanted it up here. We said, okay. So there's like a Barbie toy set there. Awesome. It's all about family. WSU sent their college game day flag. And those of you who are Cougars, you know exactly what this flag stands for and represents. And it's a big deal to have it here. But they wanted to honor Diego because he truly was a Cougar through and through. You know, there's so much about Diego to share and so much that we can and we're going to, but we're going to let some families share. And I want to invite Lizzie Lee to come and tell us about her son. Lizzie?
Good afternoon. July 17th, 1983, 4:55 a.m. A boy arrived into this world and his daddy picks out of the blue the name Diego. He became immediately that special boy, special brother, special grandson, cousin, and nephew. He touched us all, and he touched all. He was the only grandchild on his paternal side that was allowed to open the drawers to touch everything that was inside. He opened my mom's drawers and messed everything up, to the point that as soon as she knew that he was coming for a visit, she locked them. But if she was caught off guard, he went upstairs and opened the dresser like in a mission. He opened the drawers, and in a very frenetic way that probably many of you have seen, he grabbed all the jewelry and shiny things and tossed them around with an excitement that I was really concerned that he was going to have an attack. 2 years ago, I saw Adrian Luis doing exactly the same thing. Diego wasn't a quiet kid, and he was always running around and loved making noise. Sounds familiar. Anything that got into his hands, he used as drumsticks against anything that was around, a table, a book, a toy. But he wasn't precisely Ringo Starr, so what came out of it was noise. In a 5th grade PTA, when he was 10, 11 years old, the teacher read anonymous answers from her students to the question, "What do your parents complain about you?" The teacher wanted the parents to guess what note belonged to your child. After reading a bunch of notes, she goes, "That I make too much noise." His dad and I looked at each other and said, "That's Diego's note." Diego was raised with the most important value of all. Family is the compass, and he lived by that standard. Diego loved to be with his brother David and his sisters Alejandra and Camila at all times, and they formed a kinship that will never die. Due to family circumstances and age difference, the most special bonding and communion was created between Diego and Alejandra. It had no parallel in this world. He became his protector when she was born. He was 3. The connection, empathy, closeness they have had for 32 years since Alejandra was born was immeasurable. Every morning, Diego, while getting Peyton and Adrian Luis ready for school, he called her on the phone, Snapchat, to offer the kids a tia, aunt, good morning and a good day. He sent her daily audio text videos of the kids' whereabouts from his truck, at the school, or from the police car. It was a bonding that you could only comprehend when valuing, appreciating, respecting, and loving both of them. We traveled a lot together, and we lived and relived on each trip many past memories and created new ones. My kids were my marathon's companions because they loved to be together, and the list grew as we have grandkids, and Shelley joined us in some of those. We already had scheduled and booked a trip to Tokyo on February 2019. Diego's brother David and Alejandra and myself were going to run the Tokyo Marathon. I tried to convince him to run it. He said, heck no. I will be the Sherpa and the sushi eater. Because he was a very fast guy, he hated running, since his truck sticker 0.0. I know that I don't have to explain to any of you what family meant to Diego, because all of you were members of one of the families he had. Family was not just his direct family, but also those that touched his life. How come each of his friends were one of his best friends? The answer is simple. He had a collection of best friends because he was the best of the friends. He adored his beloved Venezuela, and he didn't leave it behind when we immigrated to the United States in 1999. He was 16 years old, ready for junior high. He carried the Venezuelan flag at home, in his truck, in his heart, and he shared that love with Peyton and Adrian Luis. His spirituality came from the teachings of his childhood and youth school and patron saint, Saint Ignatius of Loyola. Loyola's moral principles and motto were to love and to serve in all things, en todo amar y servir. As he had been at St. Ignatius School since he was 5 years old, I promised him that he would go back to Venezuela for his senior year to graduate with his lifetime frames from Loyola Caracas, class of 2001. And as devoted he was to Loyola, he was devoted to the Wazoo Cougs, the Seattle Seahawks, the Sounders, the Mariners, and La Vino Tinto, Venezuela national soccer team. I am certain that the tragedy of November 29, 2009, when 4 Lakewood police officers were killed preparing for their workday, was the final element for Diego to be a Leo. The day of the memorial for Sergeant Mark Renninger, officers Tina Griswold, Ronald Owens, and Greg Richards, Diego arrived before 9 a.m. at the Tacoma Dome, where the memorial was held. He followed the 10-mile procession through the screens, and when the memorial was over, about 9 hours later, Diego left the Tacoma Dome, marked forever. Diego, Peyton, Alejandra, and I visited Washington, D.C. in 2016, and the only monument he wanted to visit was the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial for the fallen in line of duty. With solemn courage, Diego wrote the names of Washington State police officers with pencil on paper. Last thing I could imagine is that his name, his beautiful name, Diego, given 35 years ago out of the blue, will be carved on those walls for the blue. He was noble, extremely sensitive, with a heart of gold. Being the first to help others was his trait, and all of you witnessed that by yourselves. The bar, he said, was very high. Probably all of you, as myself, are saying that our hearts are shattered, broken to pieces. But this may be further from the truth. A broken vessel doesn't hold, but the heart holds all the love that he gave us, and it was infinite. I feel it. It is here. The heart is the size of a fist, they say, and in this small space, we hold all that Diego was and all that Diego will always be, what he represented and what will always represent. It has no measure. Diego and I had a personal secret, 4 words with the acronym PFHR. We saw them on graffiti in a beautiful house close to our home in Caracas when he was about 8 years old. He loved the words. Though they didn't make any sense, nor we could figure out what it could have meant for the graffitist, we gave them our own meaning and made them our secret. It was our signature in our cards, letters, or communications. 2 months ago, I created a new iMessage account with an email that he didn't know. I texted, "Hello?" He responded, "Who is this?" I said, "Mom." He said, "What does PFHR mean?" Among the outpour of support that had given us so much peace and comfort, there was a particular that captured my attention. It came from a Kent Police Department colleague, Adam, if I am not mistaken. "We lost a legend," he wrote. A legend. "We came to this country 19 years ago, a very small family where the number of members could have been counted with only one hand. Today, the size of the family that Diego built in this country he loved so much, is incalculable. To Mark, we love you. As Diego's stepdad, my adorable husband Randy told you in the hospital, you are our family now. We have adopted you. Our home is your home. Something that most of you do not know. Today, July 31st, is a day that Diego has commemorated since he was in preschool. July 31st is St. Ignatius of Loyola Day, the anniversary of Loyola's death. Diego's memorial is happening on the day of his spiritual guide whose teachings he followed till his final breath, to love and to serve in all things, en todo amar y servir. 2 lines from my favorite poem of all times, Rudyard Kipling's If. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of the final distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. July 17, 1983, 4:55 a.m., a boy arrived into this world. July 22, 2018, 2:25 a.m., a man departed from this world. 1,104,960,600 seconds. Diego filled each minute of his life with that billion of seconds worth of the final distance run. He was a man, he's a legend, he's a hero, he's my son. I don't want to brag. I tried to do my best, and honestly, it was the very best. God bless you, my son Diego. I love you forever. PFHR, Mom.
Lizzie Lee, thank you for your words, and thank you for the gift of your son. He was a gift to all of us. He touched us all. Diego's wife, Shelley, said something to me the other day that I felt was a profound statement, especially understood by those who are family members of law enforcement. She said that she knows she has to share Diego with the world. And when she became a cop's wife, that's what she was signing up for. In a few minutes, you're going to hear from her in just a little while what it was about to live with Diego as a father and a husband. But family life of a police officer is full of excitement and dread, of hidden tears and worry and pride. An officer's family is proud of the work their loved ones do, and at the same time worried by the violence and the horrific circumstances they face keeping our community safe. They kissed their loved ones goodbye as Diego kissed Shelley on Saturday afternoon before his shift. If you were here when the procession arrived before the service started, you saw a riderless horse that was part of the procession coming in, leading the family to the service. A representation of a warrior and a peacekeeper who has left for battle, for the safety and the well-being of their community, only to have the horse return without its rider. A warrior and a peacekeeper did not come home on July 22nd. And that has left us with a very deep sense and feeling of loss and despair within our hearts. Like the world has been turned upside down and our hearts have been torn from our very souls. And we'll never be the same. Grief is an emotion that we absolutely are not designed to carry alone, which is why we are here together. To stand together as family and carry together this burden that we now bear. A heavy weight of loss and sadness, of anger, of guilt. Our world has stopped, and yet the world around us continues. And this pain that we feel is not a pain that you get over. It's a pain that resides within us and becomes a part of who we are. Because Diego is a part of who we are. And this funeral does not mark the end of mourning, it's just a stepping stone in the process of this journey. Diego Moreno to us was larger than life. Every picture that we have is a picture of joy in life because that is who Diego is. In your programs, there's a quote with the pictures that Diego was known to say. And that quote, just two simple words. It says, "Die living." Diego lived. He lived his life to the fullest, a son, a brother, a husband, a dad, a police officer. He lived it, and in that his life became the very example of what it meant to die living. I think about the pain that we feel because of his death. That pain is a part of living. Diego recognized this. When he was issued his Class A uniform, he requested the best quality, full wool Class A that he could get because he went to every police officer funeral, and he wanted to represent his profession with as much class as possible. You see, he felt the pain of loss, and he gave the highest honors. And so part of living like Diego is lived is to experience this pain and not hold it back, but to live it and to express it, to talk it out with loved ones and find a way to honor the ones that we have lost. He was a part of the peer support team. Why? Because he wanted to be there to support those around him. You see, he lived it. And so how do we navigate through this? Especially in this profession. Those of us in this profession, in order to do our jobs, we know we separate ourselves from the emotion and the grief and the loss that other people experience. And yet here we are, unable to do that. Because this is personal. It's family. Talking is our first line of defense. We talk about it. We hug and we cry on each other's shoulders. Tears are not a sign of weakness. Tears are an expression of love. We cry because we loved Diego. We cry because we love Shelley and Adrian and Peyton. We cry because we love Diego's family. An expression of love. Our tears, they can't make us feel better, but they are that expression. And the truth is, and we know this, there's really nothing that can make us feel better. But being there for one another to help us walk through and process. Time will continue to move on. People will continue to call 911, and we will continue to respond. The difference is we're going to do it in the way that Diego would have done it, with care and compassion, with authority and yet respect for his fellow human being. We will live the example that Diego set, and in that we die living. I want to invite Diego's good friend, Matt Mullinex, to the stage to tell us what it was like to work with Diego. And after Matt is done sharing, Shelley Moreno is going to come and tell us what it was like to live with Diego. And so Matt, my friend, come.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here to support Diego and Diego's family and his friends and his coworkers. My name is Matt Mullinex. I was a City of Kent police officer for 8 years, and I got hired about the same time Diego did, about a month and a half before Diego. And I can hear his voice now saying, "What the hell is a firefighter doing talking at my service?" Not too long ago, I made the switch, and he gave me endless crap for it. I have to preface this speech real quick. Let me get this up here. I'm kind of a tall guy. I asked Diego's wife, Shelley, to speak today, and against her better judgment, she agreed, with the condition that whatever I say be crass, inappropriate, and hilarious. I added the last two, but those are three of only many words that I would use to describe the Diego that I knew. And so I know that if Diego was standing here in my place, that he would know that that's exactly what I would want. Everybody that knew Diego knew that he He told us many times, we talked about this day coming, if it ever came. And Diego always said, I don't want you guys sitting in a chair staring at the corner. I want you guys to celebrate. And because that's what he wanted, and I know that he would want me to be hilarious and inappropriate and crass, I'm going to be flirting with some of those lines of inappropriateness today. Again, because I know it's what he'd want. So if I offend anybody, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. My first impression of Diego was made before I even met him. I had just graduated the police academy myself. I'd just been on the street for a couple of months, and I heard about this hard charger, this young guy that we just hired, very promising prospect. Halfway through the academy, he blew his knee out. And that's a career ender a lot of the time. I've done it. And instead of having surgery to fix his knee and finishing the academy later like a normal person would do, Diego slapped a knee brace on his leg and finished the rest of his academy with a blown out knee, completing all the physical and academic requirements. And then he got his knee fixed. That was my first impression of a man that I am honored to call my best friend. As a coworker, good Lord. When Diego healed up, we were assigned to the same beat, and we were beat partners for many, many years. And I know a lot of people in this room wearing uniforms today, or if you've worn uniforms in the past, know that when you work that closely and that long with somebody, you can start to read their body language. You know what the tone of their voice means. You can anticipate their next move before they do it. It's kind of like a dance. And Diego and I developed that very, very quickly. And one of my favorite memories about Diego, I think it's funny, you guys might not, but when Diego became frustrated at work with somebody, I could see his fuse getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And I always knew that there's a certain shift of his body language, and he'd rub his chin and squint his eyes while this person's talking to him that he's frustrated with. And I knew the next words out of his mouth were going to be, "How old are you?" It's a common question a police officer asks somebody they're contacting on the street. And whatever the person would say, I'm 19, I'm 30, I'm 60, I always had to turn away to hide my smirk and stifle a laugh because I knew the next words out of his mouth were, "You need to start friggin' acting like it. You're acting like a child." Diego lived his life at 1,000 miles an hour with such a fierce intensity. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know how he did it. He would walk into the break room at work, and whether you knew this man for 10 years or 10 seconds, he would immediately infect everyone in that room with that energy. He'd take a lap around the break room, he'd crack a joke, sit on someone's lap, make them extremely uncomfortable. He'd inhale a burrito or a donut as fast as humanly possible. And then one of us would get dispatched to a call. And through his mouthfuls of carne asada and delicious pastry, and out on top of that, his Venezuelan accent, which made it difficult to understand him in the first place, he would key up his radio. His call sign was 2 King 56. He'd key up his radio and say, 2 King 56. That unit is about to secure, we're about to go home. I've got it, show me en route. And then he'd do a little dance and he'd go out of the room and he'd go to the call. Looking back now, I can see the ring of energy that Diego left in a room after he was gone. And it stayed in there long after he left the room. That's who Diego was as a coworker to me, and to so many of us. As a friend, when Diego and I began to hang out more outside of work, we'd text each other, "Hey, what are you doing right now? What are you doing later today? What are you doing tomorrow, this weekend?" Whenever he texted me first, the message always began with a "hey," and then a word that this really colorful term that he liked to call me, and this is where I'm starting to flirt with those lines of inappropriateness. It was usually related to the reproductive system of someone possibly lacking a Y chromosome, Well, okay, there's a lot of cops in here, so it rhymed with SWAT. And after about the 30th or 40th time that he called me that, I said, hey, is there anything wrong with you saying, what's up, buddy? How's your day going? What are you up to? And it seemed like before I'd even sent that message, he had responded with about 4 or 5 more very creative ways of using that same term. And so I thought, you know, this is just Diego. This is a term of endearment to me. And I thought that for many years, until last week, when I was reminiscing with some very close friends and coworkers, and I just mentioned, you know, I always thought it was funny how Diego would call me that name or that word, and I'm sure he called you the same thing, and or something similar, probably had a nickname for you, and everybody got me a really weird look. They said, no, Matt. Diego liked us. And I think you were a special case. And even now, buddy, after you're gone, you're still making me feel special. Diego's the most thoughtful friend I've ever had. He'd make these gestures big or small at just the right moments in your life when you needed them. And I was always surprised when he did this, and I shouldn't have been because he did it so often. But I think it surprised me because people don't really do that like Diego did. Not to everyone like Diego did. He didn't just do it for his best friends, he did it for everybody he knew. Small gestures, big gestures, it was nonstop. I found myself this past week, maybe unfairly, comparing myself to Diego as the kind of friend that I am. And I've always thought to myself that I was a good friend. I'm always there for people that need me. If anybody calls on me, I'll be there. Up against Diego, I found myself measuring grossly short. Diego will forever motivate me to be a better friend. And that's who Diego was as a friend to me. As a father, Diego and Shelley were kind enough to allow me to be a part of Peyton and Adrian's lives pretty much since they were born. I was always in awe in how he was able to amplify that intense and fierce energy that he lived his life with, whether it was work or play, and by 1,000-fold with Shelley and the kids, put that energy back into them. I don't have kids of my own, probably because I'm 12 years old and can't take care of myself. But I always told myself that if I ever had a kid, if I could be half the dad Diego was, I would be a resounding success. And maybe I set the bar a little high for myself even at half, but that's the kind of dad Diego was. So I'll close with this. I've been talking at all of you for several minutes. I appreciate your time and your courtesy laughs. I want to touch on something real quick. Again, Diego's call sign was 2 King 5-6. Mine was 2 King 5-4. So just put that in the back of your mind for a second. I'll circle around back to that. Diego, I'm now talking directly to you. You always had our backs, buddy. Whether we knew we needed a back or not, we'd turn around and there you were. And I make this promise to you and to you, Shelley, that the people who are the most important to you in this world, your family, will want for nothing, ever. Until my dying breath, I promise you both that. And just for you, buddy, I've got one last radio transition in me as a cop. 2 King 5-4 to 2 King 5-6. I know you're ready to secure and you're going home. You can clear. We've got this. Thank you.
I'm Shelley, Diego's wife. Thank you for being here today. The outpouring of support and love for our family has been support of our family has redefined the definition of generosity for all who have seen it. From what you know about Diego and the way we have honored him today, it's easy for you to see that Diego loved police work. But there's one thing Diego loved more, and that was being a daddy. Although it was police work that ultimately took Diego from us, it was police work that allowed him to be the father that he was while he was here. Diego worked late swing, which rewarded him with daytime daddy shift. My phone used to ding every morning at work, and I would take it out and find multiple Instagram messages of riotous singing and dancing in the car while waiting in the parking lot for school to start. Then, without complaint of his 5 hours of sleep, he would walk our daughter to class and stand in line with her until he saw her safely in the classroom. Then 40 minutes later, my phone would ding again as the process started all over again at preschool. To say he was protective was an understatement, and he loved his children fiercely. When Diego's boots were unlaced for the final time, more evidence of fatherhood excellence was found. A fresh pedicure in primary blue. Diego had taken our daughter for petties just last week, and she got to choose his color. He was impressed that the lacquer made them so shiny. Diego's childish enthusiasm for life was contagious. When playing sidewalk chalk, he wouldn't just draw with the kids. He'd help them make our dog Wally into a pink striped zebra. And this week, when many of you stopped by, you asked, "What is wrong with your dog?" And I replied with the standard answer you all know so well, Diego. And no more explanation was necessary. Diego's ability to play was unmatched. He was loud and wild and persistent. Without a doubt, he was my man-child, and he was well loved for it. A few months ago, he and our son went to get a fresh cut with his cherished hairdresser, who I had bribed on many occasions to make a mistake on his hair. Afterward, as a reward for a job well done in the chair, he took our son to pick out a new toy, Exhibit A, a 3-foot Nerf sniper rifle with a 6-round magazine capacity and multiple magazines. It has been open season on me ever since, with Diego as their platoon leader. I now have a 4-year-old with a 2-second reload time and a daughter that can apply a tourniquet. A speech about Diego would be incomplete without mentioning his affinity for food. My skinny, fat kid, Diego, has passed this tradition on to his children. That's my daughter's sushi set, Barbie stuff down there. Whether it was Sushi Wednesday or Taco Tuesday, and our Barbie house things that matched. Along with his love of food was his love for adventure and food. And last summer on our trip to Spain, our food bill was almost double the cost of his plane ticket. Our children are young, and their future memories of their father will be few and faded. But Diego left so much of his larger-than-life character with all of you, and I ask that in the coming months and years that you join me in helping them remember. For those of you who do not know Diego, words do not do him justice. Diego was someone you had to see to believe, and sometimes you could not unsee or believe the things he did. But that's why we loved him. The following slideshow was prepared to paint us a better picture of the man who never really needed a last name, Diego.
Diego Moreno, and I'm an officer with the City of Kent Police Department. The one thing I enjoy the most is the brotherhood, the people I work with. Having fun, enjoying every minute that we can, and just not taking everything too serious. I never ever thought that I would be a cop. I love it. I'm not tired of it. I love the challenge. I love learning new things. I love the schedule. I love the benefits. I love the friends that I've made here. Any one of my coworkers would die to protect me, and that I would die to protect them.
Remember me, though I have to say goodbye. Remember me, don't let it make you cry. For even if I'm far away, I hold you in my heart. I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me, though I have to travel far. Remember me, each time you hear a sad guitar. Know that I'm with you the only way that I can be, until you're in my arms again. Remember me. Recuérdame.
Recuérdame, si en tu mente vivo estoy. Recuérdame, mis sueños yo te doy. Te llevo en mi corazón y te acompañaré. Unidos en nuestra canción, contigo ahí estaré. Recuérdame, si sola crees estar. Recuérdame, te irá a abrazar. Aún en la distancia nunca vayas a olvidar que yo contigo siempre voy. Recuérdame.
If you close your eyes and let the music play, keep our love alive, I'll never fade away. If you close your eyes and let the music play, keep our love alive, I'll never fade away. If you close your eyes and let the music play, keep our love alive, I'll never fade away. Remember me, for I will soon be gone. Remember me, and let the love we have live on. And know that I'm with you the only way that I can be. So until you're in my arms again, remember me. Remember me.
You got it in you. Lars, ready? Get some. You got it.
Walk like an angel, talk like an angel, but I got a prize. You're the devil in disguise, for yes you are, devil in disguise. What's up, girl?
What's up, baby? That's baby.
When I got the news today, I didn't know what to say, so I just hung up the phone. I took a walk to clear my head, and this is where the walk-in led. Can't believe you're really gone. Don't feel like going home, so I'm gonna sit right here on the edge of this pier and watch the sunset disappear and drink a beer. Funny how the good ones go too soon, but the good Lord knows the reasons why, I guess. Sometimes a greater plan is kind of hard to understand. Right now it don't make sense. I can't make it all make sense, so I'm gonna sit right here on the edge of this pier and watch the sunset disappear and drink a beer. So long, my friend, until we meet again. I'll remember you and all the times that we used to sit right here on the edge of this pier and watch the sunset disappear and drink a beer.
So thank you for taking some time out of your day. You're watching King 5's coverage of the memorial service for Officer Diego Moreno.
Officer Moreno, husband, son, and father. We're going to take you back to the conclusion of the ceremony and also for the flag presentation in just a bit from Governor Jay Inslee. Let's go back now.
Where's Enumclaw PD when you need him?
Do you think I'm cute? Yes or no? Yes?
Ay. Fonzie! DY. Oh, oh no, oh no. Oh. Hey. Go. Sí, sabes que ya llevo un rato mirándote. Tengo que bailar contigo hoy. DY. Vi que tu mirada ya está.
I want a chalupa. I do really want a chalupa. I want a chalupa!
Oh, tú eres el imán y yo soy el metal. Me voy acercando y voy armando el plan. Solo con pensarlo se acelera el pulso. Oh yeah, ya me está gustando más de lo normal. Todos mis sentidos van pidiendo más. Esto hay que tomarlo sin ningún apuro. Despacito, quiero respirar tu cuello despacito. Deja que te diga cosas al oído. Para que te
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth.
Y hacer de tu cuerpo todo un manuscrito. Sube, 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 sube. Quiero ver bailar tu pelo, quiero ser tu ritmo. Que le enseñes a mi boca tus lugares favoritos. Pasito a pasito, suave suavecito, nos vamos pegando poquito a poquito. Cuando tú me besas con esa destreza.
Tacos are my life, tacos are my world, tacos I love you for, tacos are my pearl.
Poquito a poquito, y es que esa belleza es un rompecabezas, pero para montarlo aquí tengo la pieza. Oye,
Despacito, quiero respirar tu cuello despacito. Funky, to the right now, to the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time.
I'll be the earth that ground you from the chaos all around. I'll be the home you return to. Yeah. I can be your middle ground, and I will serve as a reminder. If you jump, you will not fall. Go on and spread those wings of reason. We are water after all. And if you call on me, I'll come running like a coyote. 'Cause we're pillars indeed. A lighthouse when you're out to sea. A beacon when direction's all I need. A compass if you know what I mean. Drunk on that nectar of all that you are to me. Who wants to wear the hat this morning? I reckon neither of us cares. 'Cause there is more to life than leading, yeah. And I would follow you, I swear. And if you call on me, I'll come running like a coyote. 'Cause we're pillars indeed. A lighthouse when you're out to sea. A beacon when direction's all I need. A compass if you know what I mean. Drunk on that nectar of all that you are to me. And I will always share my fire. Proper way to pay respects. Lay tobacco down and gratitude, yeah. One thing I cannot neglect. And there are eyes that watch us closely. And there's a story they will tell. There's a war between fact and fiction. Yeah. We have no time to dispel. So familiar yet so foreign. Polaroids say so much. Bring me ceremony, parallels. I'll bring vetiver and sagebrush. And I love your feet for how they found me. How they walked upon four winds. Be my deer, I'll be your meadow. Come graze upon bare skin.
life captured in pictures says so much about how Diego lived, who he truly is as a person. There's some great memories in that video. You know, Diego served the Kent community as a police officer for 8 years. And in those 8 years, he made a significant difference on the impact upon the lives of people. He exemplified what it meant to be a law enforcement officer. He treated everyone with respect and compassion. And as we mentioned before, Diego has received life-saving awards, 3 of them. 2 of them were for saving children in drowning situations, 1 for saving an elderly female in a burning building. Those are the things that we can count. But what we can't count is the interactions that he had on a daily basis with children and with adults, and the lives of those who were changed because of those interactions. As a law enforcement officer, Officer Moreno faced many dangerous situations. And all truly day in and day out, all of our police officers do. And they put on their ballistic vests, their uniforms, and their duty belts to protect and to serve the community they work for. And over the next few moments, we are going to render special honors that reflect the duty and the sacrifice that Officer Moreno made day in and day out. Governor Jay Inslee will present a state flag, a letter of condolence, in honor of Officer Diego's work as a commissioned officer for the state of Washington. An American flag that has been with Diego for the last week will be unfolded, refolded, and presented to Shelley and his family. This flag represents the commitment to duty, to honor. 4 flags have been flown over the Kent Police Department. These are honor flags that will be presented to Diego's mom and siblings. These flags were flown for 8 minutes in representation of the 8 years of service. And with the presentation of these flags, a 21-bell salute, and the playing of taps. Then we will hear the last radio call that will put to King 56, Officer Diego Moreno, out of service. An Amazing Grace will be played. And it is with that we together, his family, his law enforcement and emergency services family, and his greater extended family of the community will have rendered the honors that Officer Diego Moreno deserves for his life of duty and sacrifice, for his courage in the face of danger to protect the innocent, for giving his life so that others may live. Governor Inslee, would you please come now, present the state flag.
Control to 2 King 5-6. Control to 2 King 5-6. No response from 2 King 5-6. The loving husband, father, son, friend, and fellow officer that touched so many lives. All of the members of the Valley agencies and citizens of the Kent community will forever be grateful. Officer Diego Moreno, 2 King 5-6, out of service. Gone, but never forgotten. Control clear.
Today's service has been very heartfelt celebration of Diego. How Diego lived, how he loved. And now only tears can express just how much we truly do love him and how much we miss him. And now it is how we live our lives that will express just how great of an impact that he had upon each of us. We've heard about his life, his work, his love. We've saw the pictures that capture just exactly who he is. And now Diego Moreno will forever be a part of who we are, because everyone here in this room and everyone watching this service has now experienced the life that Diego lived. And that's what we're going to take with us today. From this day forward, Diego will forever and will always be a part of us. And the story of his life will continue to be written because we, his friends, his loved ones, his family are going to continue to write it. Every time we tell a story, every time we share a memory, his story lives on. His children will always know who he is because of the stories that you tell. And in that, Diego will forever live within our hearts. And so today, as we conclude this time together, we go forth from here and we vow to continue to live Diego's story. And he will never, ever be forgotten. So today, on behalf of the Moreno family, the Kent Police Department, and the City of Kent, I want to say thank you to each of you. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for loving us and supporting us and caring for us in this very difficult time in our lives. I'm going to give a benediction, and then we're going to retire the colors, and then we'll do a dismissal. The dismissal is a little bit of a process, so I ask you to be patient with us as we walk through it. For the benediction today, I've adapted these words written almost 800 years ago by St. Francis of Assisi. And this is these words. Lord, make our officers a channel of your peace, that where there is hatred, may they bring love, that where there is wrong, may they bring a spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, may they bring harmony, that where there is error, may they bring truth, that where there is doubt, may they bring faith, that where there is despair, may they bring hope, that where there are shadows, may they bring your light, and that where there is sadness, may they bring joy. Lord, grant that they may seek to comfort rather than be comforted, to understand rather than to be understood, to love rather than to be loved. For it is by giving that they will receive, and it is by self-forgetting that they will find, and it is by forgiving that they are forgiven. And for all police officers, may your lives be protected as you protect and blessed as you serve. And I ask that the hand of God forever be upon you and your families. Together we join our faith traditions to speak this final blessing. Amen. Will you please stand as we retire the colors and dismiss the Moreno family?
You've been watching our special coverage here on King 5 and King5.com of the memorial service to honor fallen Kent Police Officer Diego Moreno. What a touching service and an amazing display by his friends and colleagues and family members of what a magnificent man he was. Not just a great cop, but a great human being. We heard from his mother, Lizzie Lee, who described Diego Moreno as a rambunctious, noisy kid with a heart of gold. We heard his friend Matt Mullenix describe him as the best friend a guy could ever have. And we heard his wife Shelley describe him in ways that just are completely humbling. What an amazing husband and father that Diego Moreno was. I guess if I had to just sum up what I'm feeling right now, and probably you at home, is that we've just seen a snapshot of one life of a first responder. And I'm just left with this feeling that the enormity of service across our country, every day in every city in America, there are people like Diego Moreno serving us. And that's humbling. It's huge. It's a huge sacrifice.
And we are so fortunate to have good men, good women like him out in our communities. I think you could tell from the pictures and from the words of Chief Padilla that his true gift was serving the people. And the joy he had in life, you could tell it. He was full of energy, and we heard that from his friends, from his mother, from his wife. He was this ball of energy, and he gave so much of himself to what he did, and he gave so much of himself to his family. And I think just looking at some of those photos, hearing from his loved ones, he was fun. He was fun to be around, and we got a little piece of that today. What I was also moved by was how this family has embraced Mark Williams. This is the 18-year veteran of the Kent Police Department. He was in the unfortunate position of being in that police cruiser that struck Officer Moreno, and he was injured. He was in a wheelchair today, but he was walking, or rather he was being pushed down that aisle in this wheelchair with the family. But Lizzie Lee, the mother of Diego Moreno, said that to Mark, we love you. You are our family now. We have adopted you now. This family has embraced him, this officer, and gosh, that was so touching. He was also the one who happened to he put that battle streamer on the Kent flag earlier in this service. You know, we're going to bring in Sergeant Kevin Hastings. He's with Seattle Police Department, also behind the Badge Foundation. He's been next to us watching this service. What were some of your impressions?
That the law enforcement community in the state of Washington lost a great officer. I mean, he was a field training officer, and he's the kind of person that you would want training the next generation of police officers coming on to not be too serious, to remember that life is the important part of living and to go out and serve your community. Only sorry that we're not going to get to see him out there more often or get to work a shift with him at some point.
And to hear his friend Matt Mullenix say to Shelley, his widow, "You will want for nothing for the rest of my life." That says a lot, doesn't it?
It's a powerful statement, and it's a challenge now to people out there to try to help make that one come true.
What can we do, just everyday civilians, Sergeant, what can we do to help this family, to help other families who've been through this?
I know that there's organizations out there, the banks, help financially for them, people who want to make contributions on that side. But, you know, at the same time, just trying to remember and thank police officers that are out there every day probably goes a long way to helping the family. Behind the Badge Foundation, the Concerns of Police Survivors, they all work hard to help families ongoing from here on out, and there's ways to reach out and get involved with those organizations as well.
Well, we appreciate what you do, not only for the foundation, but your years of service for us. So thank you.
We're trying it out. We'll see how it goes for a career. I'm not sure yet.
Well, we appreciate your time today, and we appreciate your insight, your perspective. And we appreciate you for spending part of your day helping us remember a great officer, Diego Moreno. King 5's Take 5 program will be back on the air at 4 o'clock, remembering the life of Officer Moreno. We're going to send you to Ellen in progress right now. But thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Really good.
Yep.
It's that one. It's this one. Okay. Good luck. Good luck.
Huh.